Hello and welcome to Bear Bull Traders Podcast Talk with Traders. In this episode, Thor and I talk about trading and probabilities and how that mindset can really improve your trading. We also share several tips that have helped us get out of losing streak by thinking in probability and resetting. Let's jump into episode number 7, Trading with Probabilities in Mind. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bear Bull Traders Podcast. My name is Carlos Moreta alongside Thor Young. And today we're going to be talking about probabilities, the numbers game, especially for anyone that's struggling with trading as far as, not finding consistency, not being able to get out of a losing streak, which is, I know is something that some of you guys actually emailed us on. And we got a couple of emails to our podcast email address. So you can always email us, by the way, at podcast@bearbulltraders.com. And we got a couple of suggestions and feedback in regards to losing streaks and how to break from a losing streak. So today we'll get into that. And I think a good way to tie into that is the, thinking in probabilities, which I'm sure many of you guys heard, but we're going to do a deep dive into that. But before we jump into that subject, Thor, man, how you been? How's everything this week?
Oh man, so good to hear from you. Also, hello to everybody out there in the podcast land, tuning in on one of a myriad of platforms that we're blasting this thing out to. Really been enjoying the feedback from everybody. Today's episode, as Carlos mentioned, we got a ton of emails from everyone about various things, and all of the emails, I don't know if we need to center one particular one out because all of them seem to kind of focus in this same general like mental game around trading, like you said, how to get out of a losing streak, these kind of different kind of concepts. So, loud and clear, people, we hear what you're looking for. So we're going to get into that. The market we got fun stuff in the market right now this week. We've been a little choppier, this market, as we've been digesting numbers. But as we record this podcast, we recently had some CPI numbers that came out. And that has gotten things quite a bit spicier in the market, although it really hasn't sold off or really even rallied. We've had these really big swings as we're starting to have a little bit of volatility come in here. So fun market, good time to really be focused when you have this extra volatility on that mental game of trading. So for everybody, we got that coming at you, and this one hot for sure. How about you, brother? How's your week been? How's the family? How's life?
Week was good. Family's good. Everyone's doing well. No one is sick because we went through a stretch there during, January and December where the kids just kept getting sick with the daycare and everything. So everyone is very healthy for a stretch about 3 weeks now, man. So nice. Me and my wife are enjoying that because when they're good,
that's a winning situation there.
Yeah, when they're good, they're sleeping, we're sleeping, everybody's happy.
Nice. So
hopefully that
dad life on that one. A lot of our fans, Carlos and I are both fathers. Carlos has a couple of rugs. I've got a couple of rugs. So we often, one of the biggest things we have against our mental game in trading is actually just being well rested, being focused, ready to do your job, because, it's like you got to wake up in the morning, you're trying to get kids out the door, get them ready, get them clean, get, things going, packed up, whatever 50 different things their school has planned for them that day.
Absolutely.
Then you got to get that out and you got to jump into the saddle. You worse than most, man, because you got that pre-market show to do. So you don't have nothing for time, man. I at least get like a half hour to start putting my list together. You're full hot right off the bat. You got to jump right in. People are, Carlos, where are those magic levels?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the morning. It's like a drill sergeant here, right? Everything just got to go. So definitely gets me nice and awake. But yeah, guys, so let's dive into some of this as far as our show this evening, and this is episode number 7, by the way. Which again,
lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7, yeah. So one of the things that we see when traders first come to realize, hey, I'm in a losing streak and I haven't had a winning trade in 5, 7, days, or even at some points even 2 weeks. My longest streak, by the way, was 2 weeks. 2 weeks I could not buy a winning trade, and it looks like the harder I try to get a winning trade, the more mistakes I did, and just the bigger or quicker the loser was, right? It was just, it's like this domino effect, or like spiraling out of control, where everything seems to just go wrong. Like you just can't break out of it. And there's a couple of things you can do to be able to, gain that confidence against and trust in probabilities and trust in the numbers, and get your mind game to realize, okay, I'm in a funk. I can get out of this. Here's the things that I know that have worked for me in the past that I can do going forward, right? Because it's definitely not easy. And I don't know how long was your losing streak.
Yeah, I went on a really long losing streak for a while, which actually continued pretty well. I'm so far I'm doing pretty good this year. I haven't had any red days yet this year.
Yeah, yeah,
But that being said, again, I don't. This is all, and we can talk a little bit more about risk versus reward, and the maybe either a different episode or later in this one. We talk a lot about how it's kind of like a money ball thing. I'm a base hitter. I'm really good at getting on base, so I have a really high hit rate. So I
yeah,
rarely have red days. That being said, though, I don't really have any really big green days either because my risk
yeah,
management
yeah.
is so tight. I don't really lose a lot of money, but that actually hinders me from making a lot of money. So, and then we have other BBT moderators like my boy Eamon, who's one of the best risk managers I've ever met. Is also a prodigy, doctor, whatever. Nobody likes him because he's too awesome. But he does almost the opposite, right? He'll endure 7 or 8 losses, 2 or 3 losing days in a row, and then in the course of 1 or 2 days, will blow out 60R, 70R. You know what I mean? Make all of that back and then because he uses these pinpoint strategies that have very, very small entries with very wide targets. So he gets a
Right.
lot of shares at a tight risk. He's going to take more stop that way. But when he gets it, they're home runs, right? So he makes a lot. So it is a little subjective there, but yeah, I've been fortunate enough that I'm really good at reading market movement, so I tend to get a little piece of the pie before I get stopped out, so I don't encounter a lot of loss. That being said, like if you're really looking at you're going into a long drawdown, because I have also had 2-week long drawdowns,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's not something I've been impervious to, and I've certainly had moments where that's happened. So the first thing for getting out of that losing streak is the first thing I want to ask myself is it me or is it the system? Right? Because inevitably the buck stops in one of two places, and it's rarely a combination of the two, although it can be obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's generically you or the system, right? Have I done something to me and my personality, the way I'm managing trades, that has changed something, right? Or has the system stopped performing? And that is something that can happen, right? You can be learning to trade in a bull market. The strong market can be very strong for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time, and then go into a distribution phase, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not even that the market's weak right now. It's just selling because we've reached an area of profit where people who bought before are now selling, and that stalls the price for a little while. But if you're a momentum trader, that environment's going to suck for you because you
Yeah,
don't get momentum now. You're distributing, so you're selling, you're lateral, right? You're moving sideways. This is where I make a lot of money, right? Because I'm a range trader. So while it's chopping around, I'm making money, you're frustrated. And then when it starts running, you're making money, I'm frustrated, right? We've all
yeah,
got
yeah.
moments where our strategies perform. So that's why you need to ask yourself first, is it me or the system? If you're executing well still every single day, but you're drawing down, something has changed in the market, something systematically needs to be accounted for. If you look at it and you just see a laundry list of broken rules, that's where you need to start, right? The first thing you have to do is execute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And like execution is key. And if in some cases what happens is you could have been doing everything right, the system could be right, it's just not working out. And this is just the rules of probabilities, right? You could do everything right, your system could be in place, and you're going to take these losses. I mean, we talk about this quite a bit. Out of if you put it this way, right? Just let's put some numbers together. Out of 100 trades, right? Think about 100 trades you're going to take. Out of that sample set, you are going to lose about 40% of them
Oh yeah.
at best, and you can still be an amazing trader. So think about that, right? 100 trades, you're going to lose 40% of them. They're all going to come at different times. They're all not just going to sprinkle themselves all over the place to keep your confidence up. So you're, for example, going on winning 3 trades and losing one, winning 3 and losing one. It doesn't come that neat. That 40 can come bunched up all together where you're losing 5 trades in a row. And there's nothing more frustrating to your confidence than to lose, 5 trades in a row where you're going to take that trade number 6 and now you're questioning basically your entire life. You're questioning.
We had started talking about this before, Carlos, man. And you're right too, man. Question your life. And you're right about that. It can come all at the end. It can even come all at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can get all of your trades all in one nice spot right at the beginning, and then spend the rest of your day just losing money,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everything.
Yes.
So one concept that we were talking about right before, like, I don't know why we should just start recording right at the beginning, edit stuff in. Anyway,
Yes.
we were
Yes.
talking about the concept of Price is Law, right? So
Yep.
for many of you who don't know what Price is Law is, it's this corporate concept, but it's kind of like a law of nature in the way it presents, but a lot of corporations use it, which basically is that the majority, or 50% of your production, is going to come from the square root of whatever the number of you have. So if you have, like, we use this with employees. If you have 9 employees, 3 of those employees are going to do 50% of your work, your ethic. Now pair that in with what Carlos is saying. Let's say you're going to lose at least like 40% of your trades, or maybe even more, right? Now you pair that with the fact that the majority of your production comes from the minority of your trades.
Mm-hmm.
That really
Mm-hmm.
starts to line up quite a bit, right? Because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't worry about those losing trades, because those losing trades are not where your production's coming from. This is where you got to trust the numbers, right? You have to really buy into the percentages and the way this works, because as you increase trading, and what a lot of traders do that really screw things up is they start to trade more. They say,
Mm.
oh, because the market
Mm-hmm.
is difficult or choppy, I'm going
Yeah.
to lower my risk and I'm going to increase my number of trades, right? Which all of you have done is you have made the trades
I
that you
have. Yeah.
take less productive,
Mm-hmm.
and you've increased the number of production, which according to these concepts is the exact opposite of what you should do. If anything, on a difficult day, on a choppy day, you should be more specific, take less trades, and increase your risk on the trades that actually match your setup, right? Because you are
Yeah.
more likely to do more production on those minority of trades than to just try and spread the wealth out. And you're just going to end up with a lot of diluted over trading. You're going to get eaten up by comms. You're not going to have a good day. You have to trust in your numbers no matter what that goes through.
Yeah, that is a great point, man. Not reducing risk and then increasing the number of trades, because you're just going to become more frustrated, right? So,
Yeah, just
actually
going to lose more
reducing, yeah, reduce the
over
number of
time.
trades, and if you like, also reduce the number of risk, but reduce the number of actual trades that you're executing. Is a great way to get out of this situation. Something else that you could do is, and this helped me out quite a bit, because I went through a 2 week span where, again, nothing was working. And what I did was I had to visualize the trades. Right? I had to visualize my actual trades. So what I did was I took a whiteboard. And I got a picture of this probably a couple of years back. I posted on Twitter or Instagram. I don't recall. But I took a whiteboard and I put, for every trade that I took, I had to get up, and put whether it was green or red. And then I had to
Mm.
put a V at the bottom where did I violate my rules or not? Whether it was green or red, because you can have a profitable trade and still
Oh yeah,
violate your rules, right? And
those
so
are the worst
those are
trades.
the worst
Actually,
trades, right? Those are the
set you
worst
up for
trades.
failure.
Exactly. So you want to note that down, because hey, although this was green, I had a violation here, so I put a V under that number. And if I can get a screenshot of that, I'm going to put it on YouTube so you guys can see. And it helped a lot, because my rule was, okay, after every trade, I have to stand up from my desk. I got to walk across wherever it is, the whiteboard, and I got to put, what happened. And then this allowed me to reset. And what I did was I put 20, right? I put 20 lines, and all I had to do was circle red or green. By looking at the 20 lines, by visualizing the 20 lines, it made me realize that, hey, this one trade doesn't matter as much as this whole entire sample set for
Yeah,
the week. So it
I
made me
like that.
realize, don't focus so much on this one trade. If it's a loser, no problem, mark it down. If you violate your rules, mark it down. And there's going to be 20 other trades that are not all going to come today. This is for the entire week, right? And it helped me out so much, man. I was able to get out of that losing streak, because it put things into perspective and something that I can see. And we actually started using it for when we were doing group mentoring. We started using it as one of the tools. We created a whole spreadsheet around that, and Mike put together a nice program to be able to help other traders. And it was amazing, man, to not think about this one trade with so much weight on it. It was making things actually worse.
Well, and you're 100% right there too. And the other concept being right is what we don't want to do is allow any one moment to jeopardize all the other moments, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is what a lot of new traders do is you have 5 trades, 6 trades, 7 trades, you're making 1R, 2R, 3R, and then in one trade, draw down 20R.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you completely blast out 10R, 11R, 12R worth of accumulated work all in one big hit, right? Or in the instance of, it could be with 10 or 11 small hits because you're just outside your room and, outside of your system, and you just start trading like crazy. Even when and this is why I say don't lower the risk and increase the number of trades, because you can still bleed out a little bit at a time. Right. But the problem is with the lower risk, when you do hit your trade and win, there will not be enough meat on the bone to offset the loss.
That's
right.
A great point.
So once you've taken so many losses, like let's say, for instance, you run a 4-to-1 RVR where you're trying to, if you risk $100, you're trying to make $400. Well, if it takes you 4 trades, then what you've done is you've risked $400 to make $400. Right? Because every time you put risk on, you're risking. Just because it was break even, it doesn't negate the fact that you put risk on, right? So you're still over your day, you're getting a 1-to-1 basically, right? And that's not fantastic, but better than not, right? But at a certain point, once you start to lose trades, you're down 3R, 4R, 5R, it's better to actually stop trading, be done for the day, allow yourself to reset, and then come back the next day when the market conditions are maybe more favorable to your style, and then get back to trading. Because what the problem is you now basically, on whatever's a bad day, right? One way or the other, we have to acknowledge you're down 4R, which means you're not trading fantastically because you've lost at least 4 trades if you're down by 4R in a row, most likely, right? What is the chances you're about to go on a hot win streak right now? Right. I mean, it could happen, or you could just keep bleeding your account out, right, and go down to 20R. And unfortunately, the way the probability works, right, is the probability is much less likely that you are now about to go on some amazing win streak, hit 3 or 4 trades in a row, and dig yourself out of the hole. The reality is, it's just better to listen to those numbers, right? You don't want to take today and let today jeopardize tomorrow, right? You also don't want today to jeopardize yesterday. You just want today to be a moment in time in which you are going to do the best in which you have, execute the best you can, and then move on. And if you can kind of compartmentalize that way and just keep from blowing out your account one way or the other, you can build consistency very quickly and execute well. And for me, that's the mental game. For me, the way is being systematic, right? I know how much money I'm willing to lose every day. I know what my goal is to win. I know what my monthly goal is. I know what my yearly goal is. I have goals for my account. I have you and I believe, talked about this last episode. We've generated our own small business here, and that small business has productivity thoughts. But it's like I'm looking at an overall P&L, right? My business wants to grow, and that growth doesn't happen in any one day, right? And I certainly don't want to unravel it in any one day either. I just want to generate consistent profits over the long term that I can use to pay my bills with, right? Because that's what we do. We're day traders and we do it for a living. So gotta pay those bills.
Absolutely. And if you think about, thinking in probabilities is also going to help you understand that you need to stop out of trades. You just got to stop out, because the minute you start thinking in probabilities and you realize, okay, you know what, not every trade is going to be a winner. I am going to lose, 40% of the time. In some cases, we know traders that lose 50% of the time, right? But that other 50% is able to cover the losers, right? The winners. You realize that I don't have to average down on this. I don't have to force this trade. I can sit back, let my system do what it does. If I get stopped out, then I'm out, and that trade is done, and you take a small loser. Because again, and I know we said this before, but there is so many traders that, it takes a couple of days to really draw down their account. And the worst part about it is that when you draw your account to the point where you're taking these heavy losses, it's very hard to recover from that, because now a couple of things: you don't have the same buying power anymore. Now, you lose a lot of the confidence. You break even more rules trying to get back in a fast pace. you can never gain as fast as you lose it, just because the overall loss of the buying power, right? So keep that in
Absolutely.
mind. You need to protect that capital at all costs. That is your vehicle to trade. And if you start damaging, the front two wheels of the vehicle, you ain't gonna move forward very fast.
Oh, it's
So
a
be
fact.
be very careful with that. But yeah,
Well, buying
probabilities, guys,
power
is
creates
so
that,
critical.
buying power is such a, there are some that don't like to use it, but
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it is a great tool to utilize. We use fixed risk hotkeys and stuff to make sure we can
Yeah.
utilize buying power without putting us into too heavy of a risk
Mm-hmm.
area. But I mean, I mean, you guys have to preserve, right? It's a business, and
Yeah.
you have to preserve capital, because that's capital is how you make money. You're playing it, and if you're again, this is what we say: we don't want any one moment today to jeopardize tomorrow. We don't want to have such a bad
Right.
day today that we draw our account down for a bunch of reasons, money wise, and then what Carlos is saying. You have physical capital, which is like your monetary capital, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have your mental capital. Right, every
Yes.
trade you
Yes.
take spends your
Yeah.
mental capital too. Your first trade, you're normally feeling pretty good, and when you lose two or three trades, that mental capital gets really, really low, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
then that's when we can hulk out. That's when we can have really big issues, is when we start to do things we're not supposed to do, break rules we're not supposed to break, right? Because our mental capital has just run low, right? And that's where you have to be really, really careful, as a trader, because again, same thing here. We don't want to take one day and have one day. We're supposed to lose 4R that day. That's what we want to lose, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a trader and you say, "Hey, I lost 4R today," and I go, "Did you follow your rules?" and you say yes, I'll just look at you and go, "Great job!" Like I'll
Yeah.
literally be excited
Yep.
for you. And I know that's so silly. You guys don't. It's true, because I'll be like, you know what? Tomorrow's going to be a better day for you, and by following your rules today, tomorrow when you're winning, it'll be that much easier to follow your rules. But the problem is, you panic today. Tomorrow when you win, you will panic even though you are winning, right?
Yeah.
You will take
That's
profit
right.
too
Yeah.
early. You will not let those positions mature, and you will not get the money you need to recover your losses from the prior days, because you're going to be so panicked and so fearful that as soon as you see a little green drop into the bucket, you're just going partial, 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 and you're
Right.
just going to take
Right.
money off of it and dilute that position. And you got to let those winners run. You got to cut those losers. You got to let those winners run.
Friends, I hope you're enjoying this conversation and finding some useful tips that you can put into practice. Want to remind you to please leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're listening in. And those watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up. It truly does help our podcast grow to continue to bring you these episodes. Remember that you can always reach us at podcast@barebootraders.com. You can send us an email with your feedback or any topic you would like us to cover in the future. Remember, you have tons of free resources in our website, tradingterminal.com, that are available to you right now, such as scanners, free simulator, and very shortly, a live simulator that you can practice in a real-time market environment. And if you are interested in joining a trading community, check out barebootraders.com for more information. Let's get back to our conversation. So one thing you could do as well is we talked about, setting up a system where you can visualize what's actually happening, understand that probabilities, there should not be one trade that's more important than the other, right? And then cut your losers quickly and let your winners run. Another thing too is, you can't let the losing streak take on this big important role where, like, oh my God, I have to get a winner, I have to get a winner. If you're in a losing streak, and like you said, going back to that point too, if you're following your rules and you're in a losing streak, that's okay. Just reduce the number of trades, but don't change anything. Don't go out there now taking more trades. Don't go out there risking a lot more. Keep continuing with the process, because at the end, this losing streak is going to end. And at the end of it, what's gonna determine whether you survived it or not is whether you follow your process of risk management or not. That's it. We're all going to go through losing streak. There's nobody that I have met that has not gone through a losing streak in some time in their career, some bigger than others. What you don't want is to go through a losing streak, and at the end of that losing streak, you can't trade because you blew up your account, or you have such a big drawdown that now you're below PDT. So don't put this emphasis on, oh, I have to get a win. Put the energy and efforts into, I need to follow my rules here. I need to follow my guidelines. If my stop loss is 150 a day and I'm losing for the last 3 days, you know what? Maybe let's reduce the max loss to 50, but keep following the same process, because that is your edge. The minute you change that, now you don't have an edge, right? So it's so
Mm-hmm.
critical to do that.
Yeah, 100%. It seems like that's gonna be our main theme, but it's capital preservation here, both emotional and your physical. You just got to be really careful. Again, you go under PDT, now you can't make money, right? So
Yeah.
that's and the thing is it's PDT for those of you who are trading live. And if you're, this is one of the reasons why we recommend funding your account with like 50 instead of like 30. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's
Yeah.
if you got 30, you got 30. I'm not trying to say, one thing or the other, but my point being is when you're starting at 30, there's only 5 grand between you and PDT, right?
Yeah.
Which is not very much
Added
money.
pressure.
20 for those of you who are unaware, PDT is the pattern day trading rule that I forget when it got imposed. It was like the 90s or something, I think. They put that there, which basically means if you have a brokerage account and you're going to actively day trade, so you're going to put a position on and take it off within the same tiff of day, right? That you have to have at least 25K in your account. Why? I will never tell you why. I don't know how that helps or what it does, but there it is. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but because of that, if you have a $30,000 account, that's a lot of pressure, knowing that if you lose 5K, you can't trade anymore as a day trader. So
Yeah.
you need
Yeah.
to, as you're building your book of business, if you will, for your day trading, something you need to keep in the back of your mind is when I fund my account, I want to make sure, some of us had like a pension that was left over from either a prior gig. Some of us, sold business stuff or
hmm
something like that. And when you fund that account, you need to think, if I'm going to draw on my account, especially immediately,
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
understand that you're going to be drawing down against your business, right? Every single time you take money out of that, you're diluting your buying power. You're getting that much closer to PDT. And once you get down towards PDT, that's when things get really, really creepy. You start doing really, really, I've been there before, drawn down really close to
Yeah.
PDT.
Yeah.
You start going into these like YOLO thoughts, like, man, maybe I've only got like a grand left before I hit PDT. Maybe I should just do a big, like $1,000 risk trade.
All
See
in
if I
on
can't get 4 or 5
GameStop.
G's into this bang. Yeah, load up on GameStop for the
Yeah.
long. Let's
Yeah.
let's let's do something. And those are the moments that your account will get smashed. You'll
Uh,
go in there and you'll do something silly, something outside your system, something you haven't tested, something you haven't perfected, and then the market does something really weird, and you're just and that is where we lose the majority of our traders, are in those moments. And then you try and walk them back, like you're like, well, yeah, dude, you weren't following your system, you weren't following your rules, you had all
yeah.
these things, like you're okay. You just but by then the mental capital is burnt.
Oh, burnt.
Their physical
Absolutely.
capital
Yeah.
is burnt, so now
Yeah.
they have to actually fund back in. And when
Yeah.
you put those two things together, it's really difficult to get over that emotionally. When you got to put money back in and you got to talk yourself back into it emotionally. A lot of people will cut and run when that happens,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. That'll be the end of a lot of traders' careers when you get to that point. And you can avoid this, guys. I know that you are going to take big losses. Everybody does. Everybody takes that one day where they just lose their cool. I haven't talked with a trader that hasn't done that yet. But if you're able to cap that as much as possible, you can still protect your account from blowing up, right? And that's the whole thing. Don't blow up as you're going through the learning curve. And not just new traders, also traders that have been trading for a while. Things can be going pretty good. I mean, Thor, you had
Mm-hmm.
a winning streak of like what was it, like 50 days? Remember
Hmm.
that huge winning streak? It was quite a couple of days, and it happens for
Yeah.
everybody when you go on these winning streaks. Eventually it's gonna end. Eventually you are
Yep.
gonna lose, no matter how many days, how long you've been trading for. It's not just for new traders. Also, experienced traders need to understand that losing is part of the process.
Well,
Uh,
winning streaks have their own inherent problems
I
too,
know. I
because
was gonna
everyone
get to
wants to
that
know when it
too.
ends.
Yeah.
First
Yep.
off, everyone wants to know when it ends, and number two, you kind of or start getting into a doubtful position. Like, man, I'm just ready for this thing. It's almost like you just kind of want to get the red day out of the
Right.
way
Right.
so you can do it. But it's stick to the system. The reason why I went such a long time is because I was sticking to the system. The day I took a red, the last day I took a red day was entirely my fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't, I actually anticipated. What stunk about it, and many of you will completely resonate with this, which is I was right about every one of the ideas I had. I just missed them all because I anticipated them. Right,
Yeah.
I wasn't quite patient enough to let the market get into the ranges where I was. I realized I was longing before it got into the range that I like to start longing in. So I took a lot of chop trying to get in, and then eventually it got in, and by then I was already at max loss, right? So I'd already finished my day, and at that point there's nothing you can do about it. I came back the next day and I 10R'd the next day, right? I took 4R loss, which was how much I was supposed to. I came back the next day. I normally only go for 4 or 5R a day. I 10R'd the next day, right? Which just shows if I had I might have gotten that day back, that previous day. I could have also have lost 10R that day, right? And then the great day I had today, would I have gotten 10R today, or would my emotional capital been so burnt from the previous day of losing 10R that maybe on this day I would have only taken 3? I would have just stopped trading, right? I hit 3R, I'm done for the day. Okay, I made my money. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, I'm back in. I was so scared. Yesterday stunk. Today's better. Oh, thank goodness. But today was the kick day, right? I could have made a lot of money today, but I didn't because I'm still emotionally and mentally wrapped up in yesterday, right? Which was a really bad day because I violated my rules and I lost a lot of money, But on my day when it went red, I was just like, man, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Statistically, I've been due this day for a long time. It's a day.
You knew it was coming.
The next day, I woke up. I sat down in the chair. I said, "Okay, let's get into trouble. Let's do this." I just sat down, started looking for tickers, went through my same routine that I go through every single day. Isolated this, similar ticker. I actually traded the same tickers that I had traded the day before because they were still in play. It was like a market move kind of a day. And so I went in there and got it, and then boom, lit the day. Had a great day and walked away. And I went, okay, cool. And that's the thing when you have a system, when you're focused on, like we like to say, pretty pictures. I'm not focused on how much money I'm making every day. I'm just focused on the sheer execution of my trading ability because that I can control. I can't control if the market goes up. Can't control if it goes down. After I get in, before I go in, during, any part of the process, I have zero control over anything. Correct. All I can do is control when I push the button to get in and get out of trades. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I do. Manage risk. If you focus there, you'd be surprised how well things can go.
That is really where all your energy should be going, when you get in and out, because, if you're thinking in probabilities, you can't control the outcome. There's nothing you can do. And if you try to force that, the market's just going to humble you very, very quickly,
Every time.
So put all your energy into what you can control, which is getting in and out of a trade. You have full control over that, right? The market cannot do to you anything that you don't let it. It's as simple as that. The market cannot do to you anything that you don't let it. So if it's time to take a loss, take the loss, push the button, get out. And if you're in a losing streak, work on reducing your number of trades. And one mistake too that I see many traders make when they're in a losing streak is that they'll start changing things in their fundamentals in their system.
Yeah.
And that is probably one of the worst thing you can do. You start saying, you know what, maybe this strategy is not working. I'm going to start doing this strategy, or this strategy is not working. That is going to just snowball into a big, big problem. One, you're not going to get it right because you're mentally spent already. You're just burnt out. So that's not going to work. And if you haven't been practicing a strategy, why would you change it when you don't have the confidence, when you're losing money and nothing is going well? It's the worst time to do that. And on top of that, usually what ends up happening, when you change that, the strategy that you were doing starts working because there's nothing wrong with the strategy. It's just that during that span of time, whatever, 6 days, it was just not working, right? So you got to be patient.
100% too. And for those who do decide to change your strategies, I recommend actually going back into simulator for those changes.
Correct. Yes.
If you're really at the point to where you need to fundamentally reorganize your system, I don't know if I would recommend doing that in a live environment. Right. It's especially midstream, like where, okay, I've taken 3 trades, this isn't working, so my next 2 trades, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
Just say the words out loud for me and let me know how they ring in your ears. I mean, can't you just tell that almost sounds like a bad idea right off the get, right? So you guys got to really, really pay attention to that kind of stuff. If you're really at the point to where it's time for an overhaul of your system, which it may well be,
yes,
right? If you are executing at an A level, you are going in when you're supposed to, you're stopping out when you're supposed to, but you are still drawing down, your system is not working. Brakes, put the brakes on, return yourself to simulator and start messing with the system. Right? Start adjudicating it, figure out what's worked, get it to perform over a month or so, and then take the new system live and start scaling it. If you are midstream changing a system while you're live on money, you are not doing it right. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
These things should not be done live. I mean, it's I don't know. I wish I had a better reason to explain to you why you shouldn't. Just can we
Yeah.
just do it? Take my word
There's
for it.
yeah. There's
As
tons of
someone who
great
has been
reason.
there, done that,
Yeah.
just take my word for it.
You do not want to be chasing a win to jump out of this losing streak so bad that you're doing things to make it worse, and that would be something to do to make it worse, right? So yeah, so it's so important to have a strong mental game. And guys, we know what we're saying is sounds easy to say, but it's not easy to do. We
Mm-mm.
understand that. This
If
is
it
why
was, we'd
good.
have a lot more traders out there
Oh,
consistently making
absolutely,
money if it was just easy.
absolutely.
It's
You
not.
know, I remember reading books before I started trading live. I remember reading some books where people blew up, huge thousands of dollars, and I'm like, oh, I would never do that. But this reminds me of something, even more simpler. When I was younger and I used to get into cars where parents had kids, I look in their back seat, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Why is there garbage all over the place? There's crackers. Like, this is insane. Now I got three of my own, and now I understand why. you
Dad,
know,
where do I put this garbage? Yeah, just throw it in the back.
every day I open up the back seat and it's like they're eating. It's
Stuff
like
just
it's
pour it
every day.
out.
It's every. So now I get it. So yeah. So you might hear something, read something, and say something. Until you are in those shoes and you realize the mental pressure that it takes to not make these errors. It's a lot. It's a lot. So you really gotta again hear this repetitively over and over again. Put system in place like the one I mentioned. Getting up from your seat, go across the room and write down whether it was a loss or a win, and
I
this
like
will
that a
help you.
lot.
It'll help you. I mean, it got me out of
I
that
just
too.
like the
Lose.
pacing
Yeah.
of it all too,
Yeah.
having to take yourself
Yeah.
off the trade for a minute. So
Yeah.
you're not chasing, you're not running. If you find yourself getting out of your chair and running to the whiteboard to mark it so you can run back,
Something's
probably
wrong.
not a good time to,
Something's wrong.
something's not right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, but I like the visual nature of that. A buddy of
Yes.
mine has a he put it all in like kind of like a similar to like I have like a little fake Bitcoin here on my desk here.
Yeah.
It was kind of that same thing. Before he takes a trade, he actually takes his coin and he puts his coin on the table in front of him. So he has to so there's a physical attachment to the
Right.
money he's about to
Right.
put in. So, but our adage was, take like $1,000, stack of, big old stack of bills and just have
Mm-hmm.
that sitting
Yeah.
on your desk. And every time you're about to get into a trade, grab the bills and move it from one side of your keyboard to the other,
Yeah.
back and forth. So every time you take a trade, you have to visualize, I'm about to
Yeah,
drop
it's
some
it's like
cash.
a mental check. 'Cause it's so easy to sit here and just hit the button, hit the button, hit the
Yeah,
button. Go long, go short, change stocks, go to this one, go to that one. And usually, when you're searching for a win so badly, you end up doing that, where you're just jumping from stock to stock and just breaking every rule in the book. So being able to have that physical kind of a checkpoint is going to help you, kind of prevent that from happening. Um,
absolutely.
and build that trust, guys. Build that trust in thinking in probabilities, not just knowing about them, because many of you guys know this already. This is not nothing new, but fully trust the process of probabilities, meaning that you understand that 10 trades, you're going to lose four of them. Out of 100 trades, you're going to lose 40 of them. Truly believe in that, and you still can be a profitable trader. Your job is just to not lose the confidence, and if those losses come all together, can you control your mental state and not blow up your account and not let these losers run, past your max loss? Easier said than done, but if you can do that, you are going to get over this losing streak,
Hmm.
thinking that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, always for the losing streak and making sure you're going out. Execution first. Make sure you are focused on you
Yep.
because you are what you can control. Don't get focused on the market. It's not although there probably is a secret cabal, they're not out to get you, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
You're using common systems and with common, concepts based on common knowledge, right? So they know where your stops are. The market is designed to entice
Hmm.
participation, which means creating fear and FOMO, higher lows, higher lows. They know where you're going to put your stops, so they intentionally will run the price into them in order to see if they can stop weak-handed participants out. Right,
Right.
this stuff
Right.
exists, but it's not personal. It's business, right? You've heard that, right? Every
Yeah.
good movie line, right? It's not personal, it's business. Well, guess
Hmm.
what? It's probably a little personal, but they don't care. But they're
Yeah.
the thing is again, like, all you can control is you and your interaction with the market, right? We talk a little bit about one of my favorite thing is like like surfing or whitewater rafting or any of these other sports that we do, you can't control nature or the elements of the things that are around you, but you can control when you get on the board, right? You can control when you put your raft in the water. You can control when you commit your liquidity to the market, right?
Yeah.
And you said that earlier, and I really, really liked that whole concept, which is, it's your fault. Like, no matter what happens, you're the one who's hitting the button. You're the one who's putting it in. If things go right, don't get mad at the market, right? If things go wrong, don't get mad at your computer, right? If all what you need to do is you need to focus on you. And if your execution is pristine, right, then it's not your fault, right? You just have a system that's not performing. So you can start adjusting the system. But if it's your fault and you're not executing the way you should be executing, right, then what happens is the opposite of that, right? You end up in a scenario where not only is your system not performing, you have no way of figuring out if it's performing or not, right? Because you are not executing as well as it is not performing, right? And that's, you got to start somewhere, and it's always going to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining this podcast today. Again, you can always reach us at podcast@bearbrewtraders.com. So send us an email there. We have a couple of emails that we received from a couple of names here: Mark, Carol, so Lewis as well, Daniel. Thank you for reaching out, giving us your feedback. So we appreciate it. We read through every single one of these. There's some more on here. The list is long. But what we plan on doing in the future is maybe putting a podcast of just Q&A. So we'll take our emails and group them together into subjects, and then we can answer those subjects, so we can cover every email. Because some of these emails won't be entire podcast, but we do want to, there are important points that we do want to get to. So thank you for sending your suggestions in. If you haven't done so, please do so. Hit that thumbs up over on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I don't know if there's any stars there, but hit the stars there as well. So guys, take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you, everybody. See you around.